I can jump in on that one. Yeah, it definitely resonated. I think, we've seen all of the data coming out that we're at, some historic lows of the last decade on employee engagement, motivation, pride, confidence in leaders' decision making. I think all of that is just really having a tough time right now within companies. And to your point, some of those symptoms are universal to probably everyone's experience, right? The underlying macro and economic issues, some of our pandemic era promises around work flexibility or well-being are starting to trail off or change. And then some of those are really specific to individual experiences in the workplace. And that might be some of the attacks that we're seeing on DEI and our most vulnerable populations, or even how AI is showing up in your workplace. And for some, that brings real job security fear. We have changing expectations of what's required of us in our role, of our productivity. And we're just using all new muscles and tools. The mental load of that definitely brings a new and different kind of anxiety and stress to the day to day. And on top of that, it's just, our top performers are always experiencing competency tax, but right now, almost everyone is being asked to do more with less. So the business might need that in these times, but there's a cost to that. And I think that's just something that employees overall are experiencing.
Dashni, I see you off mic. Anything to add there?
Yeah, I mean, I think just underscoring what LA said, it is, yes, you are seeing in some ways fragmented and at the same time very niche types of pressures, depending on whether you are client facing, whether you are internal facing. But I think one of the things that is really challenging at this time is that you've got a very turbulent political and macroeconomic space that it sort of sits at the back of everyone's mind, right? Regardless of what you believe or you think, right? That sense of constant change is behind you and just sort of being ready to adapt to it. And so you've got that. And LA mentioned this too, which is every organization that we're in, there is a surge of interest in AI. And so as an employee, you are thinking about, okay, where do I fit into this in the grand scheme of things, right? Am I the early adopter? Am I the person in the corner worried about if this is going to take my job? And that is that other piece of pressure that is sort of bearing down on folks. But yeah, totally underscore what LA said.
I'd say one thing a little bit that sometimes isn't as popular on the topic of burnout, and that is that, and related to what was said. First of all, I think burnout is a generic term and it's extremely personal. That's the first thing. And secondly, what goes along with that is to help to resolve it. And this is the part that's unpopular sometimes with people. I actually think it has to start with the individual talking to their manager or their leader, because if I have a team of people, what bothers Amy may not bother Maria, and it's going to be different than what bothers Heather. And so when I shared this before in the past, sometimes employees um, respond pretty in kind of a hostile way, talking about the fact that they say it's the company's responsibility to take care of this, and this is and you're saying we're the problem. And I'm not saying anybody's the problem, but what I am saying is that I think that the dialogue, if I need to solve something in my life, I think that starts with me talking to somebody, whether it's somebody external, whether it's somebody in my company, because again, I think this generic term is not something that can really be addressed effectively at a company level, because how it impacts people is very different.